Alright, thanks for watching. We really appreciate you watching these videos here. Remember to subscribe and like. So I'm going over the NFL draft, and my preferences or my wish list or my big board, so to speak, as far as what I would do as GM of these teams. So let's get started here. I am currently working on the Baltimore Ravens. I've skipped the Detroit Lions. I'm going to come back to the Detroit Lions because it's my home team, so I want to do that one proper. But these are some of the prospects that I have for the Baltimore Ravens. Looking at some of the information as far as their stats are concerned, they were really bad against the pass as far as the pass defense is concerned. So you're going to see a lot of players here that are going to help them out on the defensive side of the ball. Starting off with Xavier Watts, safety out of Notre Dame, 6 feet, 203 pounds. 53 solo tackles, 30 assisted tackles, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 6 interceptions, 9 passes defended. Next on the list is Mello Dotson out of Kansas, cornerback, 6'1", 190 pounds, 39 solo tackles, 10 assisted tackles, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, 5 interceptions, 6 passes defended. Gonna jump over here. Got Ed Woods, defensive back, Michigan State, 6 feet, 181 pounds, 35 solo tackles, 14 assisted tackles, 1 sack, 3 passes defended. Next is Josiah Stewart, defensive end out of Michigan, 6'1", 245, 22 solo tackles, 11 assisted tackles, 8.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Those are some good numbers there. Moving on down, this is going to be on the offensive side of the ball. You see Brady Cook in parentheses. Brady Cook was one of the top quarterbacks in the NCAA Division I last season in 2024. And this is one of his offensive linemen, Armand Mimbu out of Mizzou, 6'3", 324 pounds. And he will be a great offensive line addition to protect Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry as far as the run game is concerned. Moving on over, we got Justin Wally, defensive back out of Minnesota, 5'11", 195 pounds, 25 solo tackles, 17 assisted tackles, 1 sack, 2 interceptions, 10 passes defended. Eli Mostert, defensive tackle, North Dakota State, 6'3", 289 pounds, 30 solo tackles, 23 assisted tackles, and 7 sacks. You've seen his name on a lot of my lists. I'm really big on this guy. Next up, we have Danny Stutzman, linebacker out of Oklahoma, 6'4", 241, 44 solo tackles, 66 assisted tackles, and 1 sack. Those 66 assisted tackles tells me that he has an eye on where that ball is going at all times. So that would be a great draft pick for the Baltimore Ravens. Moving on, running back, Irv Mulligan. I just think he fits with the Baltimore Ravens out of Jackson State, 5'10", 205 pounds. 204 carries, 1,239 yards, 13 touchdowns, average 6.1 yards per carry. Next up is Sebastian Castro. You're going to see his name on a lot of my lists as well. He's one of my favorites. Out of Iowa, 5'11", 205 pounds, 39 solo tackles, 18 assisted tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 interception. Moving on over to my next page. You have Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon, 6'5", 255 pounds, 43 receptions, 591 yards, 3 touchdowns, 13.7 yards per carry. You're not bringing him in for the yardage on offense, even though he will be able to get you some yards in some crucial situations. But you're using him as mainly a downfield blocker when Lamar Jackson gets off running. Next on the list is Seth Coleman, linebacker out of Illinois, 6'5", 250 pounds, 26 solo tackles, 27 assisted tackles, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. Now, just to mention, there are some names that you don't see on here that are high on people's draft boards. And the reason being that I don't have some of those guys on here is I'm doing this with an ideological approach, if you want to call it that, for some of these guys to have an easier transition, and that is for those teams that play in a colder environments. I'm trying to get players that are coming from colleges that are based in certain geographic locations where they may have, cold seasons and whatnot, so it won't be a shock to them. That's just my reasoning for doing it, so that's why you don't see some of the bigger names on here. Moving down the line, Caden Prather, wide receiver out of Maryland, 6'3", 210 pounds, 56 receptions, 624 yards, 4 touchdowns, averaging 11.1 yards per catch. Just be a good backup receiver for them somewhere around the late rounds of the draft. Moving on, James Robinson, offensive lineman out of Valdosta State, 6'5", 325 pounds. Pretty big guy. Valdosta State had one of the top ranking quarterbacks in the NCAA Division II, I want to say, or the football championship series. So he was one of the offensive linemen blocking for him. And here's a name that you see tossed around a lot as far as being one of the higher picks out of one of the HBCU. That's Carson Hinton, defensive back out of Howard, 6 feet, 196 pounds, 34 solo tackles, 7 assisted tackles, 5 passes defended. Homeboy from Detroit, Michigan, so want to show him some love there. He should be on the NFL roster next season. Now, doing my countdown as far as from the bottom to the top, we'll get started at the bottom here. And as you can see there, James Robinson, number 15 out of Valdosta State. Ed Woods is number 14 out of Michigan State. Caden Prather, number 13 out of Maryland. Number 12 is Terrence Ferguson, tight end out of Oregon. Number 11, Carson Hinton, defensive back Howard. Number 10, Sebastian Castro, safety out of Iowa. Number 9, Irv Mulligan, running back out of Jackson State. Number 8, Eli Mostert, defensive tackle, North Dakota State. Number 7, Danny Stutzman, linebacker out of Oklahoma. Number 6, Armand Membu, offensive tackle out of Missouri. Number 5, Seth Coleman, linebacker out of Illinois. And number 4, Melo Dawson, cornerback out of Kansas. And the top 3 that I have would be number 3, Justin Wally out of Minnesota, defensive back. Josiah Stewart, defensive end out of Michigan. And Xavier Watts would be number 1 as far as the first round is concerned, safety out of Notre Dame. So let me know what you think. Believe the Ravens have 11 picks in this draft. So out of my mock draft or mock list, so to speak, I don't see them running into any issues as far as being able to at least acquire 5 or 6 of these names off of this list. So let me know what you think. Once again, this is my Baltimore Ravens, thinking about baseball, Baltimore Ravens wish list and big draft board. Thanks for watching.